Hello and welcome to the Wheel of Crime podcast, the podcast that's ran by two ladies who play games, mumble profanities, and laugh way too often. Also, this podcast does cover topics of sensitive nature, and as such, listener discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Wheel of Crime podcast. My name is Jenn.
And my name is Emily. Yes, welcome back. A week has once again passed. Here we are. Whoop-de-doo. It is now the last week of September.
September. No, it's not. We have one more week of September, but next Friday is September 30th, and we shall begin our Spooktober episodes a little early. A day early. Yeah. Really.
Vaguely early. It's basically the last week of September. I'm going to count it anyways.
Exactly.
Yes, the fall wind has finally blown in. I'm much happier. I am not built for 30 above weather. Terrible. Hate it.
I know. Yeah, last night my partner and I went for a little evening stroll, and I was wearing a light jacket and he was wearing a sweater and shorts, and I was like, ooh, there's a little chill in the breeze. It feels like a September night.
Right? I keep getting emails from all these different Halloween type events that somehow have my email, and it's like, Pumpkins After Dark, are you getting your tickets this year? And I'm like, I don't know yet.
I mean, that's because we went last year and it was fun. I would be up for going again.
It was fun. We'll have to figure it out, because I'm not really sure. Halloween's on a weird day this year, I feel. I know it's close to the weekend, but is it on an actual weekend day?
It's on a Monday, but...
Yeah, so weekend adjacent, because I feel like people are really going to be turning it up the Friday, the Saturday, and probably the Sunday.
I mean, I know I am, because I freaking love Halloween.
Do you have an idea yet of what you want to be for Halloween?
I don't know. We don't usually dress up, because we usually just watch spooky movies and stuff like that. I mean, when I say usually, I mean the last couple of years, because Halloween's kind of been canceled because of the pandemic. Yeah, so yeah. I feel like we might actually go see people this year. I know, how scandalous. But I don't know yet. So if we do costumes, it'll probably be a last minute thing.
I see. See, I am the opposite. I've had my costume planned, I think, since February of this year.
What are you going as?
Well, I usually have a few, because I like going to multiple Halloween events. That's a lot of fun for me. So my big one, my feature costume I always go to this one really big Halloween party every year, usually. The last couple of years have obviously been different, where there's somewhere between 30 to 50 people. And my costume for that one is going to be female Austin Powers.
Ooh, that's fun.
Right? I already have the costume figured out. I'm so stoked, especially because so I have been telling people what I'm going as, but I feel like that's just it's very non-traditional. And right. But still iconic in the way where most people know who that is. So I'm very curious on how it's going to go.
That's so exciting. I love that for you.
I am very excited. And then as for the other ones, I have yet to decide, but I usually bank about 3 different costume ideas and then kind of rotate between them depending on what I'm doing. So we'll see.
Because one of them is a Shrek party, right?
Yeah, so that one, I think it'll be closer to the day when people actually solidly decide who's going to be who, that I'll have my costume figured out for that one. So I guess that would be my second one. And then for a third one, I usually have a daytime one planned out, a more casual one to wear for visiting family, going to work, just being in the spirit of the holiday and not full sending it where you feel like your ankles are going to snap off and you can't eat,
That's true. Last year, for work, I went as a pirate, and I only went in as a pirate. We figured out our costumes the night before.
Did you just wear that
hat I ordered
and an eye patch?
Literally. And then some of the people, because we went as a team costume, because I work in film, And so, like, my whole department, everyone dressed up as a pirate.
Okay.
That was the vibe. And some of the people didn't have hats. I was one of them, but I was given a hat, but there was not enough hats for everyone. So I spent a good 2 hours making paper hats for everyone. Because that's, like, the perfect use of my time, right?
I mean, it sounds like fun. I'd rather do that than most other things.
I mean, it was a volunteer position that I volunteered myself for, and no one asked me to do. So, you know,
it's good stuff.
It's noble work, really.
Plausible. No. What word am I looking for? I can't remember. It's an A word. You're a very sweet A word.
Sweet asshole.
The sweetest of all assholes, volunteering constantly. Good for you. See, I went my daytime outfit last year because I feel like it was either last year or the year before, but one of the 2 years Halloween was like canceled, where it was like, don't even see people or the police will be at your door, no trick-or-treaters, like lock that shit down.
Yes.
And whatever one that one was, I was one of the only people in the office because most people were working from home, and I was the only person who dressed up, but that's fine because there was only 5 of us there, and I went as a Yeti.
That's fun. That would have most likely been October 2020.
That's what I'm thinking, because I'm not, like I said, time frames with like between 2019 and like earlier this year are just so wacky to me still. I think it's almost like it like befuddles into like 1 year of just random chaos, and then I remember nothing.
I mean, 2019 for me was all like pre-pandemic, and then 2020, 2021 are like pandemic years, and this year's like, I feel like the first weird hybrid year where it's like kind of pandemic, kind of not. People are very over it. Who fucking knows?
Yeah, and then it's like on one end you have people who are catching COVID like every other day, but nobody gives a shit anymore. But then you still have to wear a mask at the airport. Like, it's like a whole thing. And at the doctor's office, but like not anywhere else.
Honestly, I will probably wear a mask at the doctor's office for the rest of time.
Thank you, Kate. I'm actually on the same page. I was trying to describe this to somebody the other day where I was like, yeah, I don't really mind having to wear a mask to the doctor's office. And they were like, yes, that's just what big gov health man wants you to think. And I'm like, no, you see, though, I go to the doctor's office and there's always a elderly man hacking up a lung in the chair beside me, and I've never liked it. And now I have protection. I'm okay with that.
Honestly, same. Especially, like, the emergency room. It feels like if I'm gonna get a deadly illness, that's where it's happening.
Oh, absolutely. That or Calgary Stampede, as we've learned.
Which I will probably wear a mask to from now on.
Absolutely. I know. I thought about that too. And I was like, with what I've experienced the last couple of years, like what kinds of places will I wear a mask on? Public transport, I think so. Calgary Stampede, I might just not even go ever again. Fuck that.
Same.
With how sick we were, I think I'm okay. I'll do a pass on that, I think. And then, like,
Same.
Obviously, like we just talked about, the other places that make sense, like the doctor's office and other random places. So, I mean,
I feel like the airport makes sense too, if I'm being honest.
Especially airport bathrooms.
Yeah. But think about how sick you were when we flew to Europe together. You were, like, ill because of Snack Man.
I know, and that was in, 2018? And then when I went to Vegas in May of this year, I came back sick again. And then I went to Florida, whatever year that was. I think it was 2019? It would have been early 2019, I'm pretty sure. And I got really sick from that, too. So, like, I don't trust people at all, in general. I feel like that's a given. Number one. Number two, I do not trust planes for lots of things. But not for the falling out of the sky. Definitely for the germs. That's my number one as far as planes go.
Mm-hmm. I feel ya. I don't know. I'm happy in some regards that, I don't know. Honestly, I don't really mind wearing a mask, so I'm like, it's kind of whatever. It is nice to feel like life is sort of getting back to normal, but I don't know.
It will definitely take a while. Lots of big things going on in the world, I feel like currently. It'll be a while yet before we get back to something subnormal, methinks.
Yes, me thinks that too. But anyways, we've been going on for a while. We should probably spin our wheel of questions.
Yes, we shall. Okay, so I'm going to preface. Some of these questions will be similar to questions that I've asked in the past, but I kind of don't mind re-asking certain questions just to see if anything's changed with life experience. So,
okay.
This is one of those questions where I'm pretty sure I've asked it before, but I put it in anyways just because I like it. So, if you saw something unexplainable in the woods, like just in the woods, what would you do? Like, is this one of those things where you would, like, be like, wow, I saw this really freaky thing in the woods and I have to tell everybody? Or would you be like, I can't tell anybody, they will think I'm a crazy person?
I feel like it would really depend what it was. If it was, like, like, if I'm like, I saw Bigfoot, honestly, I'd probably just keep my mouth shut, because I'd be like, you know what? No one needs to know. He's living his life.
Bigfoot, I got you. We're tight. Your
secret's safe with me. Like,
okay, that's super funny. I never would have expected you to say that, but I love it. That's great.
You know, but if it was like, I don't even know.
What if it was like an alien or something?
I don't know. I also feel like their secret's safe with me. If I saw like a lightning strike a dead animal and then it came back to life, I would tell everyone. I'd be like, Miss Blabbermouth. I'd be like, literally, the movie Frankenweenie, that's a documentary.
That's a documentary. We must rewrite history, guys. We must. Okay, so what if it was like some sort of like hybrid animal? Like kind of what we've talked about before, or what if it was like a crime, but you weren't really sure what you saw?
If it was a crime, I would be a good, upstanding citizen and for sure report that shit. You know.
Okay, but like, what if it was one of those things where like you came across like a camp in the woods and it was literally like people roasting like another person on the fire? Like, would you say anything?
Absolutely. I would want the inside scoop. I would get the interviews right then and there. And then I would...
You'd pull out the microphone and go over to the campfire. Hello, this is Jenn with the 411 News. What brought you to this place?
Okay, first of all, I would get the inside scoop. Second of all, I would go straight to the police. I'd be like, you're all going to jail. And now I have your recorded testimony. So, good luck in court.
There you go, guys. I guess Jenn's the best person to bring with you into the woods, because, see, I'm the opposite, where if I saw something unexplainable, even if I wasn't entirely sure what I saw, I would still be telling people. Like, I would literally be the elderly person being like, let me tell you about the time I saw Bigfoot in the woods, and then everybody would be like, sure, Grandma.
It's funny because my partner has a family member who does believe in Bigfoot, so
that sounds like my family as well.
Yes. So I don't know, I feel like there's a stigma, and I would be like, you know what, I'm okay with keeping his secret. He's not hurting anyone.
Imagine on your deathbed that people would be like, Jenn, what's something that you need to tell us before you move on? And then you just look up them and you're like, Bigfoot is real.
Beep.
I'd be like, that bitch. How dare
she?
Fucking
flatline right as it's about to get juicy.
That would be very on par for you, though. Like, I wouldn't expect anything less.
See, and I love keeping things to myself.
I love keeping secrets.
Because then I can pull these stories out of my fucking, like, asshole at a moment's notice, and people like you who have known me for many years, and I feel like I've told you a lot of things. Yeah. I tell you something, and you're like, when did this happen? What the fuck? Why are you mentioning this now, years later? And I'm like, just to keep things spicy.
Just to keep things spicy. See, I'm the opposite, where sometimes I just forget things, and then one day I'm like, oh yeah, and then blah, blah, blah. And you, like, look at me with these big old eyes, and you're like, excuse me? And I'm like, oh yeah, I totally forgot to tell you.
I mean, I do that too sometimes, but sometimes you just gotta keep things to yourself so that at a moment's notice, when the time is right, you can pull that shit out.
When the secrets are ripe for the picking from the gossip tree.
Literally, I live for the drama. I love it. So, we gotta like spice up the storylines sometimes,
Oh, hell yeah. Let's spin for our next question. So, in your opinion, what is like the spookiest thing about nature? Like in any aspect?
The fact that bugs are just like allowed to exist and crawl everywhere, I don't like it. That's spooky.
Point. That's spooky.
And they all look creepy as fuck. Like, why did nature make that happen? Like, why does a beetle gotta look like that? He looks terrifying.
Literally, the first thing that popped into my head was in Canada here we have these things called spruce beetles. Terrifying. They will take a chunk out of you, and they are huge and disgusting. Do you know what I'm talking about when I say spruce beetle? Mm-hmm. They're those really long black ones with the giant antennae and the huge pinchers, and they will like fly and climb all over you.
Yeah. I don't like it. Mm-hmm. I don't like any of it. Who allowed that? We should make it illegal.
I agree. That should be illegal. If anything, definitely that.
Bugs, they're now illegal.
Oh, yeah.
Vote for me for Prime Minister of Canada 2026.
Ban all bugs. I mean, I'd be on board with that. I don't know how you do it, but I'd be like, you know what? I feel for this cause.
Okay, I got at least one vote, guys. We're gonna make it. I'm gonna be the new Prime Minister, a write-in candidate.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm trying to think about what I would think the spookiest thing about nature is. I feel like you could get really deep with that depending on like what you're thinking about. Like I feel like it's full of secrets, which like is kind of cool sometimes, but also spooky. Mm-hmm. But I think for me, the spookiest thing about nature is a couple things. Number one, there will be things that will hunt you that are smarter, faster, and stronger than you, and they will get you if they want to. So that's pretty spooky. And then number two, I would say maybe like I said, like the things that we don't really know about it, like say for example, if there's like a cave system that you just like step in the wrong spot and like fly to the land below the earth or whatever that book is called. It's like the one where they're like spelunking and then they find dinosaurs in the earth. Journey to the Center of the Earth. See, if there was something like that in Canada, I would be very scared of that, because I would be like, I do not want to do that. No, thank you.
No. Well, are you going to tell them about your wilderness story that you told me for the first time the other day, or are you going to save that for our spooky stories episode at the end of the month?
I mean, we could share that right now, because that was pretty spooky, and it was in the woods. But, yeah, no, so what Jen's talking about is it was, like, during the pandemic, I went for a hike, on this trail that's, like, pretty popular, in Alberta, and it takes you up to an old, like, decommissioned, fire watch, basically, because they have those up in the mountains.
Right.
And my friend and I had just started this hike, and we got maybe 20 minutes up the trail when I noticed that the, like, birds and like bugs and squirrels had all just like stopped. Like we went from it basically being like chirpa chirpa in the woods to it being just dead silent. And basically I noticed this, and I like looked at her and I was like, hey, so this doesn't feel right. And then basically as soon as I talked to her, we like overheard this like really weird sound coming from kind of like further up the trail, and it literally sounded like a walkie-talkie turning on and off, like over and over again. And then I was like, that's pretty fucking weird. And then we're like trying to figure out, like, do we keep going? Do we turn back? Because at that point I'm like, if the birds aren't chirping anymore, I am getting bad juju vibes from this trail, and I am not into it anymore. And then as
The
we were,
worst
like,
vibes.
literally the worst vibes. Like, it was one of those things too where, like the longer we were there, I just felt like just like a ball of like just anxiety, and just like all of the hairs were standing from the back of my neck, and I was like, I do not feel safe here. And then before we figured out what we were gonna do, all of a sudden, between like these weird, like, kind of like walkie-talkie sounding sounds, it started to sound like somebody was speaking, but not like, almost like they were speaking but that they didn't know how to. Like, it just was very like it was like an imitation of English. Like, it didn't sound like a real language at all. Like, it just sounded like something that was pretending to speak. And at that point, especially because, so just to give some background for you guys, our lovely listeners, when we got there, we were the only vehicle in the parking lot. There was no other people at this place yet because we went pretty early in the day. And there isn't a chance that there was somebody there because there isn't like overnight camping or anything. So we were the only people who should have been on this trail. And so after we started hearing like what sounded like almost English, I was like, I am leaving. And I turned around and we started walking back on the trail. And then it was like we basically got right back out to the parking lot, and there's like a couple other people who like all parked there, and we're like, hey, like, don't go out there. Like, there is something on the trail. We're not sure what it is, but like, obviously, if the birds don't want to be heard, not a good sign.
No.
So we packed our shit up and we left, and I tried searching up later on to see what it was, and the closest thing that the internet could come up with was that it was a cougar or siren head. So
two very different options.
So you can decide what you think it was, but yeah, no, I've told people this story a few times, and most people think it was probably a cougar, if that was the gist of it. But it's a little weird though, just some of the like the accompanying things, and it was like right on the trail. Like, you couldn't see what was making the sound, but you could see that whatever it was maybe about like 10 feet away from us, like in the bush. Like, it was not that far away from us.
That is super spooky. I feel like I'm on the track of it was probably a cougar, but that is like terrifying because those motherfuckers will come and get you.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and here's the other weird thing though, which I'm not sure if I shared with you last time, but one of the people that I told this story to, and I was mentioning that I thought it was a cougar, is somebody who goes hunting pretty regularly.
Mm-hmm.
And they had told me that it would be very unlikely to hear a cougar because they, especially if they are like in an area where they're looking to eat something, wouldn't be making noises so that you know that they were there. You would hear the birds not chirping, and then you would know nothing else.
That is horrifying.
I know. So then I was like, okay, well, if it wasn't a cougar, because why? Because he made a good point. I was like, if something is a predator in the area, it shouldn't be making noises to be heard. And whatever it was definitely by itself. Like, there wasn't like a community of these weird things.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it was injured, which is possible. But I don't know. So after he mentioned that, I was like, I didn't think about that.
My only other thought is that, like, someone had walked onto the trail or something and got attacked by a cougar or some sort of other predator, and they were, like, trying to walkie for help.
See, but that's, like, that was another thing where I mentioned to this person who goes hunting, like, that side of things as well, where I was like, oh, like, maybe it literally could have just been a person on walkie-talkie. And again, his thing is that, generally speaking, birds and animals and insects don't view humans as being like an apex predator. So you would still hear those things if it was actually a person on a walkie-talkie.
But not if the cougar was still nearby.
I mean, maybe. But like, that was the other thing too, is I never ever saw anything after that about a missing person or, about an attack. There was never a cougar sighting on the trail. Like, nothing ever came up after that.
We'll never know, but it is super spooky.
Definitely. And again, Jen was right. That's another one of those stories where I'm like, wow, here's this really freaky thing that happened that I never told you about. And she just looks at me and she's like, why? Why do you do this to me?
I mean, maybe you're also just trying to keep things spicy.
It's my memory. I got a bad one. It makes things spicy on its own. All right, let's spin for our next question. So, does the idea of being in the mountains at night scare you or bring you peace?
I really feel like it depends on the situation. If I was stranded in the mountains without protection, I would be pretty freaked out because of all of the wildlife we have here in Canada. Lots of bears, cougars, and others that could easily kill me. Or, people too. They exist to murder as well. If I'm driving through or if I'm like in a city situation, I'm happy. I love the mountains.
See, I had a very similar thought pattern with this question where I like the idea of being in the mountains at night, assuming that I'm with a group of people.
Yeah.
And have a tent, at least. But if I was by myself, even with a tent, but if I was by myself, I would not be vibing with the situation. I would not be all that peaceful. I would be very concerned.
Yeah, even if it was like camping by myself, which I don't think would ever happen because I don't camp, especially not by myself.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably be pretty like on edge at night, just like worried about making sure that nothing happened.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, let's spin for our last question.
Cool, let's do it.
Do you want to or know another language?
I kind of... Okay, so yes to both, but one's with a question mark, if that makes sense. So I'm currently... I know, like, I'm a beginner at French right now. I'm trying to become fluent because it just would come in handy for my job. And then I'm intermediate at ASL.
Oh, okay. My brother, who's autistic, when he was really little, we had to learn kind of like beginner sign language for him because that's the only way that he would communicate with us. I totally forgot about that part of my life.
Yeah, I don't know. A few years ago, it honestly started because I was watching this teen drama called Switched at Birth, where one of the characters is deaf and, uses ASL. And I just, like, really was intrigued. And I was like, that would be a handy skill to have. Not that I have anyone in my life who uses ASL, but just, sometimes you never know, right? So I'm past beginner. I'm at intermediate. I haven't been, like, practicing regularly because, haven't really seen people. I've let my skill get a little rusty, but... So I kind of know ASL. I'm not, like, super confident. So I don't know if that's, like, I know another language or if it's, like, I know another language, kind of.
I would say if it's something that you, like, practice at, then like, you're on your way.
Yeah. I feel like I'm intermediate, but I'm not advanced.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I, on the other hand, speak 0 other languages other than English, and I can do that barely. So it's already not looking good. But as for like wanting to know another language, oh hell yeah. There's been lots of times where I've been somewhere and either I really like how it sounds, like how it rolls off the tongue when people speak it fluently, or the convenience of knowing something. Say, for example, in Canada, if you know French, that already puts you so far ahead for however many things and like that type of thing. So like, I don't know. There's definitely lots of things that I would want to do. But I think that how my brain absorbs information, that I would be a little lost in the phonetics of most languages. It's not something that really comes all that easily to me.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. It's like my partner, he is fluent in French. Like, he got a French diploma in high school, and he's like beginner to intermediate in Spanish, so...
Your partner is in Mr. John speaks French fluently.
Yeah, he's bilingual.
You're shitting me.
No.
You were pulling my leg.
No, he was in French immersion in school.
You were totally making this up.
I'm literally not. You can text him and ask him yourself.
You are absolutely making this up.
I'm 100% being honest with you. He is bilingual.
No, he's not.
Yes, he literally is.
No, he He isn't. He's a little Frenchie.
He's a Frenchie.
A little
He
French
was
boy?
in French immersion.
Does the little French boy want a French fry?
Maybe.
I am flabbergasted. This has never once come up in any of our conversations since you introduced him to me in high school. This is the first I am hearing of this.
Yeah, he used to text me cute, like, little love notes in French when we first started going out. It was really cute.
This has to be made up. There's no way this is real.
It's real, I promise you. I'm not lying.
Okay, first it's that he's a competitive bowler, and now you're telling me he fluently speaks French?
He's a man of mystery, what can I say?
Is he also an astronaut? What else don't I know about him?
Well, you have at least a year before our wedding to learn the ins and out of my partner, so get studying.
Apparently I know nothing exciting. Good for me. But
yeah, so he's been helping me with my French lessons, which is nice.
I still don't think I believe you. But you know what? We'll put a bookmark in that. I'll run my own tests later.
Literally ask him.
Well, no, because now I gotta play the long game. You see, this is the same thing as the bowling. I have yet to bring up a situation where I can be like, when are you gonna pull out your customized bowling ball, John? I need to park that information in there and let it simmer for a bit.
Literally come over. I'll get the bowling bag the bowling bag out myself.
I've been at your house and I've never seen this bowling ball. I'm starting to think you're just like making stuff up, and then eventually I'm gonna be talking to John one day and he's gonna be like, I've never even been bowling before.
Literally ask him yourself.
Yeah, sure. But that concludes our wheel of questions. Do you have any idea what we're talking about today, since we mentioned it the last time I had my episode?
Yes, we are talking about the spooky stories around the Appalachian Mountains.
Oh, hell yeah! Which I did get a new description for you about fun facts about the Appalachians. So, while exploring inland along the northern coast of Florida in 1528, the members of the Narvaez expedition, including Alvar Nuez Cabeza de Vaca, found a Native American village near present-day Tallahassee, Florida, whose name they just transcribed as Appalachian, and the name was soon altered by the Spanish to Appalachia, and used as a name for the tribe and region spreading well inland into the north. Panfilo de Narvaez expedition first entered Appalachia territory on June 15, 1528, and applied the name to the area, and now it is spelled Appalachian, and it is the fourth oldest surviving European place name in the U.S., in case you wanted to know where the name Appalachian even came from.
I did. How did you know?
I know many things, and apparently not that your partner speaks French, and I've only known you guys for 8 years. Well, I've known you for more than 8 years. We've been over that before. Him, for sure, it's been 8 years.
Almost 10.
I know. And apparently I'm just learning these, very intrinsical facts about him and his life. Fluent in French. Get the fuck out of here. Anyways. I am going to share with you some spooky stories that people have experienced in the Appalachian Mountains. But to start with, I'm going to give you some, general... Because you remember how before I told you that there's a lot of, myths and legends that were kind of passed down through people in the area?
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't necessarily experienced by people of today?
Right.
So I have some of those stories just kind of as a summary to read to you first. And then I have a couple of stories from Reddit from people who experienced, things in person themselves in the Appalachian Mountains and shared it on Reddit.
Very exciting. Take her away, Em.
Yes. So, in May 1972, a hiker saw a ghost from another time. The hiker was walking alone and noticed a heavy ground fog had started to surround him. He looked up and saw a person walking with a heavy coat and a wide-brimmed hat. The man slowly staggered about, looking at the ground as if he was looking for something that he had lost. The man started walking towards the hiker, still looking at the ground, and so the hiker moved to avoid him. When they were too close to each other, the man suddenly looked at the hiker, who instantly became afraid of the man's cloudy blue eyes and then stared straight through him. He was also shocked to realize that the man's clothes all seemed to come from a different time period. The hiker tried to say hello, but the man did not respond. After the hiker walked a little distance, he turned back only to discover that the man had completely disappeared.
That's spooky as heck.
Right?
I hope I never encounter a ghost in real life.
See, that's my thing, is that I don't mind, like, meeting a ghost conceptually, like, in essence. But I feel like if I was, like, walking a path in the woods by myself and, like, came across a person wearing clothes from, like, the 1700s, I would just pass away on the spot. Like, there's no way.
I'd be like, Mr. Ghost, now is not the time.
Not today.
I'm sorry, you're gonna have to reschedule. Like, this is not enough notice.
You'll have to reschedule. Actually, my head and my heart can't handle the information that I'm receiving right now, so I'm gonna need you to schedule in on a different day to make your ghostly appearance, because right now, not a good time.
It's gonna be a hard pass for me. In the woods, absolutely not. You pick a better place.
Literally. So that's that guy. And then the next one is a legend from the Cherokee. So, this is what it says. The Spearfinger legend originates from the Cherokee and has been used to scare children for years. She is a witch-like hag who is said to be able to take on the persona of a sweet old grandmother. She lurks around the highest peaks of the Smoky Mountains, keeping a special eye out for children who have wandered away from their parents. She likes to prey on their fear, telling them that she will help them find their parents, and then slowly sing them to sleep. Once the child is sleeping soundly, Spearfinger will use her fingers to gouge at their liver and eat it in front of them.
I don't like that at all.
No, I also, like, beyond ghosts, I also hate the idea of a old woman singing me to sleep in the mountains and then stealing my liver. No thank you.
Yeah.
But that's basically the summary on that one. I could get more into, like, that particular legend, but it's just for the area, so I'll move on to the next one.
The next one. Hold on. There's so many things I just want to say. There are so many things about that one that I do not like. And it may make me reconsider my visit to the Appalachian Mountains. Just saying.
Absolutely. And, like, my big thing too is, like, why the liver? Like, have you ever smelled liver? Like, just out of curiosity. I know that you're vegetarian, but have you ever smelled what liver smells like beef liver, like the kind that British people get at the grocery store?
Yeah, it doesn't smell great, and also
it's literally one of the worst things I've ever smelled in my whole life. I bought one once because this was during my iron deficiency phase, where they were like giving me different things to include in my diet, and one of them was liver, and it genuinely smells so terrible that my countertops and my sink smelled like liver for months. Months after buying it. It's not worth it. And here she is, raw dogging it in the woods.
Ew.
Liver, straight in the mouth.
Raw dogging it. Also, can't she be a little more considerate? I need my liver. She can have my other kidney or something. Or like one of my toes. She can definitely
have my appendix. I'm pretty sure she can have my tonsils and my appendix. She can have those ones.
Yeah.
3-course meal.
But liver? I'm gonna keep that.
You're like, I do like to drink wine and I would like to continue doing so.
So, like, just pick a different organ. Like, I'll give you a list of the acceptable ones.
Yeah, like a 1 to 10 of, like, which is most acceptable to eat. You could just have this one.
What's your next legend?
So, my next one is called Dudleytown. Ooh. And so Dudleytown has a ominous nickname, which is also known as the Village of the Damned. It's called that because of its horrifying history. It was founded by descendants of Edmund Dudley, who was beheaded by Henry the... See, I don't know my Roman numbers very well, but it's Henry VIII, which might be the 6th. I'm not entirely sure.
That would be Henry VIII.
Oh, I was only 2 off. Close enough.
I was only 2 off.
It's close enough. But Mr. Dudley was beheaded by Henry VIII for treason and was said to have cursed land and a cursed family. and the Appalachian Trail runs right by it. So, Dudleytown was built in the 18th century and was abandoned in the 19th century, leaving only ruins in its wake. And nobody knows for sure why it was abandoned, but some people believe it's because residents who stayed there soon went insane or committed suicide after they claimed that they were possessed by demons. Nowadays, people report seeing strange lights and orbs in the surrounding area.
They see orbs?
Yeah, like floating orbs and strange lights around Dudleytown.
That's concerning. Maybe someone
Right?
should check into that.
Potentially. You would think so. But then, so I only have one more.
They're
of
like,
these
nah, we're just gonna... That's fine. It's okay.
Yeah, it's cool. Well, they're like, well, nobody lives there anyways, so like, why do we care?
The orbs can have it. That's their land now.
It belongs to them, okay? Don't make fun of them. They live here now.
It's run by an orb council. Like, they've got their own setup.
The Council of Orbs. Okay, guys, what kind of supernatural bullshit are we going to be up to this next week? I think we should just do another run around the village of the dam and scare some hikers. Maybe put on some clothes from the 1700s and call it good. I like your idea.
Exactly. The liver lady, she needs to consult the Council of Orbs because that's unacceptable.
She absolutely needs to. So I have one more general story, and then I have my Reddit stories for you, okay?
All right.
Yes. My last one is, every year, about 24 hikers go missing on the Appalachian Trail, on average. But a vast majority of them are usually found within 2 days. That's what makes the particular case of a lady named Geraldine Largay even more mysterious. The 66-year-old was halfway through the hiking trail in 2013 when she just vanished. On that day, she was planning on hiking 8 miles north to meet her husband at a rest stop. Throughout her entire journey, the husband met up with her at certain points to provide encouragement and supplies, but Largay never arrived. Her body was then found in 2015, just 30 minutes away from a road that led into town.
Well, I don't love
Right?
that. They should...
No.
The Council of Orbs needs to get involved for this one, too.
Absolutely. And with that particular one, with her being missing and then just suddenly her body being found 30 minutes outside of town, I'm going to share with you a couple of stories from the Appalachian Mountains, and then that might make a little bit more sense to you, based off of what these people's stories are, okay?
Okay. Wait. Do you have any theories? Do you think it's like, it is something supernatural, or do you think it's just murderers?
With her, I think it might be, I don't really want to give away one of the stories, but, I will say that I think in her case, it probably has a lot to do with the general notoriety of the Appalachian Trail, because you remember how last time I gave you kind of like the factual beef of the Appalachian Mountains as my story that week?
Yeah.
So in part one, another reason why I gave that information to you the way that I did is so that it kind of linked a little bit more into understanding why these stories are the way that they are. Because remember how I was telling you that in these isolated communities, they often intermarried between families, and there was a huge issue with like food, and they had to have those social workers come up there and all these different things.
Yeah.
So just keep those particular facts in mind about how rural it was, the not being super socialized outside of people from their own families, the whole thing where it mentioned that they were very welcoming towards strangers to come and stay in their like homes and their towns and stuff like that. Keep that in mind as well. And then definitely the lack of resources and the retreating into the mountains. Those three things are going to be very poignant in these Reddit stories, okay?
Okay, I've got those floating around I've got them orbiting my one brain cell, if you will.
The Orb Council just lives in Jenny's head.
The Council of Orbs would like to begin.
They've got one gavel in there just knocking shit around.
It would explain so much.
Right? Alright, so my first story for you is actually from a deleted user on Reddit. So their username is not currently linked to this story, but it is still up there. So, these stories are going to be read from a first-person perspective, but as I feel like everybody here is aware, I am not from the Appalachian Mountains. I do not live there, and I know nothing, well, other than what I've told you guys. So, every I that I say is not me. It is deleted user, okay? For this story.
We're going
So,
POV for this one.
absolutely. So, let us begin. I could give you a million times as a kid and a young adult that I felt scared or paranoid playing in the woods. It is a beautiful place, and I spent my entire childhood getting lost, not literally, out there by myself or with friends. As kids, we never got too far out there, but you could actually see the progression of us venturing further and further out as we got older, because forts and carvings that we would leave behind would go deeper into the woods. So, this one particular time, like 1,000 times before, my friend and I had just graduated high school, and it was our last summer of freedom, and we spent the entire summer camping and hiking out in the woods. We had decided to try and find a new place to set up camp and walked for what felt like a few miles before we came to a nice clearing. The area was relatively new to both of us, and we got the camp set up and the fire going. The plan was to wait until nightfall, smoke some weed, and play Monopoly, which, like, I'm not a huge weed smoker myself, but that does sound like fun for some people who just got out of high school.
It sounds like a vibe.
Two besties, Monopoly, camping, weed. Like, you got all your bases covered.
It's true. Could be a vibe.
Could be a vibe. So, for the sake of backstory on my friend and I, my buddy is a smaller, really goofy guy and comes from a family of foresters and always had a deep understanding of all, like, the trees and, like, the different kind of plants and areas that you could come across. And he had no fear of going and camping out by himself. So, basically, if I had spent about 10,000 hours in the woods, he's spent probably about 50,000. And as for me, I'm kind of taller, a little bit sturdier, and as we got older, I spent more time worried about women and sports and the woods became like a place for small parties. Also, I never had the balls to camp out alone. In fact, older me wouldn't go very far at all when I was alone because I could never really shake the feeling of being watched, which was just paranoia mostly, but still an uneasy feeling. So anyways, the camp is set. The fire is going, and it's getting lower, and it needs wood. The sun is down, and we're both cutting up wood and just in general having a good time. My friend is sitting on this little chair he always brought and loading up his makeshift bong, and I was crouched behind him, kind of breaking off some of the excess limbs off of some of the logs that we had gathered for the fire. All of a sudden, the strong breeze cuts through the clearing, and I couldn't tell you if it was the suddenness of it or what, but my friend and I both stopped immediately and looked at each other. The breeze went just long enough to flicker the fire down to a small flame, so we ended up both, like, completely sitting still in almost near darkness, and neither of us had said anything to each other yet. Across from us on the other side of the fire, we could hear footsteps, and they sounded like somebody was running, and then they would slow to a walk, and then they would run again, and it was definitely on two legs. And by the sounds of it, they were pacing back and forth over the same spot. But then, just like it started, it stopped with a softer crunch on, like, the underbush. And I knew by the sound of it, it had taken a crouch. I was crouched still as well, and I knew I was staring right at it in the dark. My friend grabbed my shoulder and said, "Buddy," and when he did, I felt the surge of fear come over me. I could feel it and I could hear it in him, and I'd been so fixated on the footsteps and rationalizing what it was and what I had heard that I haven't even considered being afraid, but at this point, it was true fear, and I felt completely helpless. I could hear my friend after a while grab some leaves, and he dropped them on the fire, and for a split second the leaves covered the fire. We were all of a sudden in pure darkness. Then the fire sprang back to life, and we both grabbed more leaves and brush and threw it on the fire. We got some sticks and logs on there, and neither of us took our eyes off the spot where we heard the person crouch down, or moved really for over an hour. Finally, the leaves started crunching again, and whatever it was slowly walked away. Whatever it was had sat crouched, watching us without moving for far longer than any animal normally would. And it wasn't until after the footsteps disappeared and I realized that the smell had disappeared as well. It had smelled like a paper mill, spoiled eggs almost. For the rest of the night, besides whispered remarks, neither of us really moved or stopped looking at the spot. Nobody went into the tent, and I had a very short light sleep sitting on the ground with my head rested on my hands. My friend never went to sleep. In the morning, we packed up and silently walked home. To this day, when we talk about it, and to this day we talk about it. In the 7 to 8 years since this has happened, my forester friend has never camped by himself ever again.
That's crazy. Also weirdly reminds me of your story that you just told.
I know, right? Where it's like something that you don't really know what it is, but like just like alarm bells in the back of your head and just does not sit well with you.
Mm-hmm. Also, I feel like they probably got out of that situation okay because they were both familiar enough with the woods. I feel like it might have had a very different ending if they were like, oh, this was our first time ever camping in the woods.
Yeah, I think it would be a different ending if whoever it was that was watching them thought that they would be easier to take advantage of. Like, if they just, like, were busy, like, you know, like, dabbing it up or doing whatever teenage boys do in the woods at night, and, like, didn't notice that somebody was there, like, they might have actually gotten, like, attacked.
Literally. I feel like it's because they, like, that gut feeling of, like, recognizing, like, something's not right here. That's what saved them.
Oh, absolutely, right? And it really does make you think about some of these other things, right? So that's my one story. And now I have my second one. Okay, so this one is from user Six String Shadow. Shadows. 6 String Shadows. Okay? Blah, blah, blah. So, here's how it goes. A few years back, my girlfriend and I, having hiked several other parts of the Appalachian Trail, decided we wanted to give the southern portion of Virginia's trail a shot. It is about 166 miles long and runs through George Washington and Jefferson National Forests from Roanoke County to Pearisburg in Giles County. And this is definitely one of the more remote and less traveled parts of the trail, which is kind of more what we were looking for. We gathered our gear and made our way to the start of the Virginia Creeper Trail and began our journey. We had planned our journey to end kind of around Damascus and figured by that time that we got there, we would be more than ready to go home and kind of be back in our own beds. So basically, the trail that they picked, I looked it up, it's basically a day hike. And so they had it planned for wherever they got off, they would be able to, like, cab basically to where they were staying. So it's just like a regular day hike.
Right.
So it was early October, and the changing of the leaves and the colors were amazing. The air was crisp and cool, perfect hiking weather, and it was just beautiful scenery. The majority of the trip was pretty uneventful, you know, just your typical hike. But our last couple of nights there is where it got weird. On this portion of the trail, you were supposed to camp on the trail or in a designated shelter. So, the trail that they're on, like I said, it's like a day hike, but there is the option of doing a longer one. So like reading this story, I think I understand what they were doing, which is just basically hiking the different trails in the area. But on the one, they recommend doing an overnight stay and then finishing the rest of it in the morning.
Right. Okay. So they were just doing a portion of it instead of like the full thing.
Yeah, but I think, if I'm understanding correctly, on this particular one, they were planning to stay the night. Like, this was, like, their last night of being in the area for the hike, so they wanted to do the overnight.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, this is an important detail. So, we didn't really want to run into other people, and we didn't want anyone coming up on us in the middle of the night. So, we decided to ignore those suggestions and find our own little spot off the trail. A little searching around, and we found a spot a little ways off the trail in the middle of a small clearing. It was perfect. We set up camp, cooked some food, talked for a while, and then snuggled up and went to sleep for the night. Somewhere around 2 a.m., I was awoken by my girlfriend shaking me awake, telling me, "Get your gun, someone is outside walking around our tent." She informed me that she woke up to what sounded like somebody right outside of the tent running a knife or something along the side of it while they were circling us.
Okay, I hate that.
Oh, it gets worse, don't worry.
Perfect for an October night, I suppose.
Literally. And, like, just keep in mind, too, that, like, this trail, they have this thing where they're, like, either stay in these shelters that we have built on the trail, which, like, they kind of look similar to, like, what we have in Alberta, where they're just, like, little, like, cabin shelters that you can stay in for free, like, if you find them. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? So they're either that or, like, designated camping areas. So they've basically said fuck it to both of them because they don't want to see anybody else and picked a spot off the trail, and now this is happening. So there isn't supposed to be anybody else there.
I hate that.
Right? So when hiking, I carry a 1911 and a Judge with me, which are, like, types of guns. So you never know exactly who or what you might run into when you're on a long hike in a remote location. I was trying to be prepared, so I got the Judge out of my pack and we sat silently listening for any sounds. A few minutes of nothing, and then the breeze blowing through the trees, and then I heard it. Snap, crunch, snap, someone or something walking in the woods behind our tent. I got the flashlight and silently made my way out of the tent, which, like, could not be me.
Mm-mm.
Even if I had a weapon, fuck it. I would not be leaving that tent. But, so, I got the flashlight and silently made my way out of the tent. Our fire had went out, so it was nearly pitch black outside. Illuminated by only the dim glow of the moon, I told my girlfriend to stay put while I checked it out. I didn't flick on the flashlight on right away, as I didn't want to give away that I was outside of the tent, and it would be like a beacon of like where I was in case somebody's looking to hurt them, right?
Yeah.
So instead, I waited to hear more noises. After a few minutes, I heard it again, the snapping and the crunching, and it sounded like it was a bipedal based on the way the steps were placed, so you could tell it had 2 legs, and it probably wasn't an animal. I turned on the flashlight and flooded the area with light, and then I saw someone move behind a tree. I yelled out and told them to go away and that I was armed. I kept the light on the area with my gun drawn and slowly approached towards the area where I thought I saw the figure. Then from my right, I heard sounds of somebody running away through the woods. I spin and face my light that way, and then from the original spot hear who or whatever it was take off into the woods. So more than one person.
Yeah, I hate this even more.
So there was no way I was going to chase them, so I returned back to the campsite, and I tell my girlfriend about what happened, and I ended up sitting guard outside the tent in the darkness until daybreak in case they came back. In the morning, I looked around for bits of signs for whoever or whatever it was, and I discovered a boot print in some soft dirt, like not far from our tent. It wasn't mine, and it wasn't my girl's, and it freaked me out because it confirmed that somebody, perhaps more than one person like I had originally thought, had been hanging around our tent in the dark. And I kept it to myself because I didn't want to freak her out any more than she already was, and at this point we were pretty deep in the woods still and had maybe about 2 days left of hiking. So that day we walked a little faster than normal and covered as much ground as possible. So when it came time to set up camp, I found a spot near a cliff where we would place the tent in a small overhang and prevent anyone from coming up behind us. The whole day up until this point, I had a feeling that we were being followed. I had no confirmation of this as I hadn't seen or heard anyone else, but it was a gut feeling that I couldn't really explain. And then we set up camp, made some food, and retreated to the tent. I gave my girl the 1911, and I kept the judge right next to me, and I assured her that if I fell asleep at all, it would be with one eye open. After a while, she ended up drifting off to sleep, and I stayed awake listening to the sounds of the woods at night. So I was awake for about a few hours, just waiting to see if anything was going to happen. At this point, though, I think my exhaustion caught up with me, and I drifted off a bit, and I awoke sometime later to what sounded like somebody going through our stuff outside of the tent. I grabbed my gun and woke up my girlfriend, shushing her to be quiet. From the faint glow of the fire, I could see someone's silhouette up against the tent. There actually was somebody out there, and I yelled out to them something along the lines of, "We are armed, get the fuck out of here," and they dropped what they were doing and they bolted. I came out of the tent, gun drawn and ready to shoot. Our stuff had been strewn about everywhere. They had rummaged through quite a bit of our things, and I walked to the edge of the woods in the direction of whoever had fled. There was a creek nearby, and I walked to the edge, and there was a small trail running along beside it. Down the creek, I could see a light, and it looked like a lantern by the way it was flickering, and I saw about 3 more of them emerge from the other side of the woods. I told my girlfriend to start packing up whatever she could and that we were going to be leaving now. We packed up everything of value, left the tent and a few other items, and headed back to the trail in the middle of the night. I kept hearing people talking off in the woods and hearing branches snap for quite a ways. I kept looking behind us every few seconds to make sure nobody was coming up on us, and it was the most nerve-wracking experience of my life. If something happened, we were still a long ways from anywhere and quite literally on our own, since we hadn't seen another hiker the entire time that we'd been on this trail, and I felt like we were in serious danger. So we had been walking for quite a while when I heard something in the woods again. As we rounded the corner, I saw someone step out onto the trail and just stand there watching us. It was just as the sun was starting to come up, and there was barely any light outside, and I couldn't make out any features on them, just the silhouette. I stopped and looked at them for a second and asked who they were and what they wanted. They just stood there silently watching and then turned and walked back into the woods. We picked up the pace and kept going, looking back every so often, and we didn't see them again, but my gut told me they were probably still there for a while. And we reached the end of the trail and got to where we'd parked my girlfriend's car, just exhausted. We made it out of the woods without becoming a meal for a clan of cannibalistic inbred hillbillies, which is what I had pictured happening in my head the whole time. I have no idea who they were or what they wanted, and maybe it was just somebody messing with us, but I'm not really sure. I will never know, I guess, who exactly was hunting us, and I will never be coming back to find out the truth. And that's the end of their story.
Horrifying. The hills have eyes in real life.
Literally. So that is the thing that I was trying to like not exactly give away, but that is one of the things about the Appalachian Mountains, where there are a lot of stories of people who have not seen other people and have like bred with their families so much, and it is so rural that they do not see other people as being people, but rather animals to hunt and eat.
Horrifying. Genuinely my worst nightmare. And you know this took place in America because of the guns, and I had a very similar experience in America. Actually, not really, but in my head it was.
Right? I know. Funny enough, reading that story reminded me of your story about when you and John were cruising in the woods and being tailgated by a beat-up pickup truck.
It's true, and he joked about the Hills of Eyes because it's about hillbilly cannibals in the frickin' woods, so I am afraid, yes.
Yep, so that is basically the gist of the Appalachian Mountains, is that a lot of people believe that they're full of cannibals. There's been lots of stories of people being hunted by other people that they can't really see when they're up there. That's why they also have a lot of those designated shelters, and that's why there's that recommendation to not go off the trail, because a lot of these places have like territories that belong to certain people and they don't really know who's out there. And on top of that, there's also some Windy Boy legends that are out there as well, because that ties in with the cannibalism. And it also explains the being welcoming to strangers and like some of those other things that I mentioned to you.
Freaking spooky, dude.
Very spooky. But that concludes my story for you. My two-parter about the Appalachian Mountains, because you can't have one without the other.
You certainly can't.
Yep.
Before we go, we have to spin for our topic for our first week of spooky season episodes.
Yes, I hope you're all ready. It'll be very exciting.
Yes, spin away, Em.
Looks like we're doing local spooky legends.
Ooh, I am actually pretty excited for that one.
Ooh, I gotta do some research. I want this to be a gooder, so we'll put something together for you guys, and we'll make sure that we ourselves are ready for spooky season. Mentally, I am ready, but physically, I am not. I gotta get my pumpkin spice going here soon.
Exactly. And in case you're new here, how our most wonderful spooky episodes work is for the month of October, we do Spooktober, so we spin for a topic, and both Emily and I will be sharing a story related to that topic until the end of October.
Yes, so it is our Spooktober saga, and this is the one time of year where you get a little something from both of us per episode, so it'll be fun. I always have fun anyways.
Me too. I'm very much looking forward to it.
And so with that brings us to the end of today's episode. If you would like to leave us a review, we are available obviously wherever you're listening to us. 5 stars helps us reach out to more listeners, so that'd be greatly appreciated. Besides that, we also have a website, which is www.wheelofcrime.com, if you'd like to check us out there. We are also available on social media for any show updates that you might want to be a part of, which is on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, all at Wheel of Crime. And if you have your own story or anything you'd like to share with us, we're always open to speaking with our listeners. And that is, you can contact us through email, which is wheelofcrime@gmail.com. And we also have Patreon if you want to donate to the show and get a little something for your efforts. That is Wheel of Crime on Patreon.
But that is actually it, and that is actually all for today. So we will.
That it is.
So we'll see you next week for another new episode. Okay, bye.
Bye.